Welcome back to Trees and Lines. We are thankful that Curtis Martin from Aerial Solutions joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Curtis.
Good morning.
Yeah,
good morning.
Aerial Solutions been around for quite a while now.
A few years.
We've seen them every year. But take time, introduce yourself and introduce Aerial Solutions to us.
Okay. So my name is Curtis Martin with Aerial Solutions. I'm general manager. I have been since 2021. I've been with the company since 2008. Aerial Solutions, we're an aerial tree trimming contractor for utilities. We've been in business since 1985, so coming up on our 40th year of making sawdust. We contract with typically investor-owned or co-op utilities, ranging from transmission down to distribution, your 765, all the way down to single phase. So we do some railroad, some pipeline right of ways. In the past, we've done a little bit of DOT, a few other odds and ends things, but mostly overhead power lines. So as we all know, trees and power lines don't necessarily get along, so we try to keep that buffer established.
So you drop a gang saw down next to a distribution line. What's the clearance have to be?
So your typical distribution right of way might be, a 30-foot, a 20-foot, or even a 15. So on a 15-foot right of way, you've got 7.5 each side of the wire. Our more experienced, more skilled pilots, can cut in those tight parameters. Some with cutting distribution, there's a lot more involvement with utility to be able to cut stuff with overhang on it. What's going to happen to that limb when it falls. We on distribution, we can cause outages on occasion, but that's all pre-planned. It's all talked about prior to. In a lot of ways, it's, what we do is the safest, most efficient way to do it.
I imagine a lot of rural areas. It's the best way to get to it.
Absolutely. I mean, that's kind of where we like to be is the places where, your other option is to climb it. No equipment's going to get to it. It's too rocky. It's too steep. It's too swampy. Whatever the case may be, we excel in the hard to reach areas.
I got to imagine it's an expensive operation. You've got lots of equipment. You've obviously got helicopters and all that stuff, which also means there's a lot of risk. Safety is a priority. Have you seen obviously growth in the space, has it taken utilities some time and continued time to get comfortable with the complexity of what you do?
So over the course of the years, growth has been almost exponential.
Got it.
From a safety point of view, yes, there is risk. There's inherent risk with being off the ground in an aircraft.
Yep.
But what you see is such a reduced amount of exposure, because we have one man with one piece of equipment doing what it would take a crew of 10, 15 men to do.
Yep.
In a lot longer period of time. So your reduction of risk of slip, strips, falls, exposure to snake bites, poison ivy, all the things, actually putting a man in a tree, with overhanging limbs next to a power line is much more risk than where we're at. We're not electrically exposed. Think bird on a wire. We're not grounded. So if we don't have any exposure to a contact risk. So that takes that element off of it. Most of what we work hot.
Got it.
So the utilities do not have to be.
That's a huge advantage.
Yeah. We're able to work, 100% of the transmission that we work at hot. Unless there's some extenuating circumstances that there's already an outage on it or some sort of reconstruction. On the distribution end of things, like I said, we pre-plan what we're trimming. We may request an outage for something that we know we're going to knock it out anyway. When you're talking about overhang and canopy, a lot of that stuff can be mitigated through conversation up front.
Yep. Okay.
So one of the big conversations recent years is the lack of human resources. They can't staff crews. So I would guess more mechanized, people have to be looking that direction.
We're a force multiplier. We can use a reduced amount of men and equipment to accomplish the same task, the same job, in a much shorter time frame.
Yep.
So a lot of utilities look at us, to be able to put us in an area, just let us go, and it doesn't take from their resources to do that job.
So it's typically the pilot in the air, one person.
Correct. Our crew consists of two people, aircraft, truck, and a saw. That's an Aerial Solutions crew.
Okay.
And we rely on the utility to provide, ground support, which, there's some other models that bring their own ground support,
Okay.
which, I could see some benefit from that, having familiarity with the aircraft itself and that operation, which we teach all that to utilities people up front. But you can't replace that local knowledge, because, the people on the ground that we're communicating with, they live there, they work there, they're on those circuits day in, day out.
Right.
They know a lot of stuff about it that if you bring in an out of town crew,
Right.
you miss a lot of that.
Right.
So that local knowledge is
great.
incredibly helpful.
How big, like, how many crews do you have? How many pieces of equipment do you have? Like, what is the scope and scale of you guys?
So typically we have anywhere from 8 to 10 crews in the field.
Okay.
We work our crews work a 4-week shift. They go out, they work on the crews for 4 weeks, and then they go home for 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
They rotate out with another crew. We do that to, when you're on the road, you're on the road.
Yeah.
Away from family, away from home. So we work the 4-week schedule to offset the time away from home. So, you're able to still have a life. And we work territory-wise. We're covered 26 states, so basically Gulf Coast of Canada,
Yeah.
Oklahoma City, and east. Oklahoma City and west, you kind of run out of trees.
Yeah. Let's say like a polygon, just as an example. Like, let's say we said you have to trim this polygon using your technology, your methodology versus a ground crew. What is faster and what is cheaper?
So typically we're faster by a long shot.
Okay. So like a major magnitude.
Right.
Okay. And then the cost.
Cost-wise, we're typically cheaper. So
Interesting.
we may be, from a utilities point of view, ground-based equipment, mechanized, is kind of a benchmark. Climbing, individual, just ropes and saws, that tends to be the absolute most expensive way to trim a tree. And we fall somewhere between, the ground-based equipment and climbing, typically on a per tree basis. But when you look at volume and you start counting trims, we may be the quickest, cheapest option.
So, and I'm not suggesting that utilities haven't adopted you guys or versions of you guys, right? Because I know it's out there. Why do you think that it's not the norm? Like, why do you think it's not the standard for trimming?
So in a lot of situations, we have limitations of where we can go. We don't go downtown. We have safe cutting distances that we adhere to. That
Like
we
distribution networks are a little tougher for you.
a little bit. No, a lot of distribution. You'll have an area of homes, and you'll have some rural where it passes over a ridge or something like that. There's a lot of places we can go. In the early years, there were really no rules because we were the first company to have an air saw, so we had to sort of learn as we go. We worked with the FAA to establish safe cutting distances, and we basically helped write the rule book,
Right.
and that's what we adhere to. And there's areas that we can't go. So there's certain utilities that think, well, we've got too much infrastructure in town or places that we can't go, so we're just not even going to look at it. When in actuality, there probably are a lot of places we can go.
Right.
Some utilities, co-ops, they see cost, and it may be a big bill up front,
Yeah.
but when you look at what's actually been done,
Yeah.
it makes sense.
Got it.
So who's cleaning up?
So the utilities typically have a tree contractor in-house, and so they typically provide the cleanup. A lot of areas we go, you don't need cleanup. The rural, the backwoods, up and over a mountain, it becomes rabbit habitat, and we'll just leave it there.
Got it.
Certain areas have to be cleaned up. Pipeline is 100%. Pipeline floors have to be mowed, but they have their in-house either contractors or in-house folks that
Right, they
they
can
come
do that.
behind us and grind it up.
Got it. Oh, very fascinating. And you're based where?
We're based out of North Carolina,
Okay.
a small town called Tabor City, just across the state line from Myrtle Beach, back into North Carolina.
Okay.
We're a family business, family owned. We're about 75-ish employees.
Wow.
Give or take a few. So, we pretty much, we know everybody.
Yeah.
We know everybody's family.
Yeah.
That's
great.
We don't really get to see each other very often just because of the way we work.
All right.
When you're out on the road as a crew member, you're with
Yeah.
your counterpart for 28 days.
Yep.
But as far as management or other office personnel, we may only see each other a couple times a year.
Yeah. I didn't know specifically about Aerial, but I know there's lots of companies that kind of do what you do. How do you guys kind of differentiate yourself from the market?
So we are an aviation company.
Yep.
We're deeply rooted in aviation. The family that owns us started out spraying years ago, and just we just most of us we have a huge passion for aviation.
Yep.
So we're not a tree company with a helicopter.
Yeah.
So
Right.
we're aviation first.
Yeah.
That's kind of where we're at. It's where we have our roots, and our history, our longevity with our long-standing relationships with the utilities that we work for. We've built a lot of trust. We've built a lot of partnerships and relationships with people that use us year in, year out. We have utilities that we're coming up on, like I said, 40 years of working with.
Yeah. Are you guys, is most of your work concentrated in and around the Carolinas, or are you across the country?
We're across the country.
You are across the country.
Basically eastern half of the country.
Okay. That's true.
A large volume of work is the Mid-Atlantic region.
Yep.
A lot of volume in the Midwest, Missouri, Illinois. The thing about what we do, the trees continue to grow.
Yep.
So even though we've been there,
Yeah.
we're probably going to come back.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's a good business model.
yeah,
Yeah.
you can, with vegetation and utilities, and sometimes you can take a little break, or you can take a year off.
Yep.
But you have to maintain it.
Yep.
And that's where we like to help out with the maintenance end of things.
Very good.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for making time, Curtis.
No, absolutely.
Pleasure to get
Appreciate
to
the
know you and a
opportunity.
little bit of what you guys are up to, and fascinating stuff, man. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, no,
Appreciate
absolutely.
you carving out
Thank
time.
you.
Absolutely.
That's it for this episode of Trees and Lines, brought to you by Iapetus Holdings. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify. If you have any questions or comments on any of our episodes or ideas for topics or guests, we'd love to hear from you. Please contact us at treesandlines@iapetusllc.com. We'll chat with you soon.